15-minute cities. You've heard about them. And if you live in Edmonton, you are under imminent threat of it becoming a reality, with other Canadian cities planning in that direction. But why are they bad? Surely it would be convenient to have work and services closer. Perhaps to not even need a car, and wouldn't be a return to simpler times when communities were closer knit and everyone knew their neighbors. Douglas Farrow is a professor of ethics and religious studies at McGill University. Recently, he was interviewed by the Western Standard and the Epoch Times on why 15-minute cities are a tool of totalitarian government. In those articles, he was quoted as saying that there's nothing to prevent the tyrants from tightening controls even further once the cities are in place, and that they will become an integral component of the surveillance state. But even those articles restricted themselves to a few choice comments. Professor Farrow's thoughts on the matter go much deeper, and he joins me today to share them, and to provide us all a much deeper understanding of how the globalist agenda will not only subject us all to their control, but infect our very society with their own brand of anti-ethical behavior. Professor Farrow, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
I'm very happy to be on your show, Will.
Now, as I said, folks, in my introduction, I first became aware of Professor Farrow with a couple of interviews, one on the Epoch Times, one on Western Standard, where he was questioned about these 15-minute cities that we're all hearing about, and in some cases we are about to be subjected to. Edmonton, I think, might be the city that's farthest down that road right now. And Professor Farrow has made some very clear statements about this is totalitarianism. And I think, Douglas, the most important thing that you said was that how easy it would be, once this structure is in place, for them to tighten those controls even further, to restrict people's movements even further. So please expand upon your concerns about these 15-minute cities.
Right. Well, the 15-minute city is not a simple thing to assess because there are multiple dimensions to it. It has some very attractive dimensions. For example, it's presented as a way to sort of fight back against the rat race and all the time that so many of us spend in frustrating experiences, either of public transport or private transport, cuts down on that kind of inefficiency as part of the vision here. And it also cuts down on the pollution associated with it. And we all would like to have cleaner air and so forth. We might, talk about the climate change dimension of it at another point. And moreover, it's seen as something that advances communitarian goals, that it makes the world somehow a little smaller again and a little more personal. So and social. So you would have in these redesigned cities or sectors of cities more green spaces and more places for people to congregate in a fashion that allows them to get to know one another rather than just to pass by honking and beeping at each other in their cars, right? So in addition to that, it promises various kinds of conveniences that modern technology can produce. These are to be smart cities. They're to be cities that are pleasant on the surface and under the surface are laden with all the advantages of modern computerized technology. So, of course, critics say, well, isn't that lovely? But how do you turn the cities we actually live in into such places? Is this even at all feasible? And other critics ask, well, if we did manage to do this, what would happen to the people who don't fit that sort of gentrified prospectus, whose lives are not easily mapped onto such a city? Would they have to leave? Would they somehow be, I don't know, institutionalized or sent away or got rid of? I mean, how would they fit in? Is this really for everyone? If each of these 15-minute cities is to have all the necessary amenities for the good life, then are we going to have to do a lot of work and spend a lot of effort, a lot of money, and frankly, produce a lot of emissions to recreate in each place access to these amenities? Or are we somehow going to go back to a city that is a circle of circles, all of which sort of converge at the heart, where all of these large venues that can accommodate everybody exist? Well, you can see right away that it's not a simple business to carry this through. No matter whether you think it's laudable or not, it's not a simple business to carry it through. There are many cons and many concerns that are raised with respect to it. Well, one, I've already mentioned the fact that one type of city doesn't suit everybody. So are you going to have quite different versions of this as you move around that larger circle that is the city as a whole? From one 15-minute city to another, are you going to have, as it were, ghettos in which this kind of life is lived and ghettos in which that kind of life is lived? How much freedom will there be to move between these? They're meant to be multicultural, but there are sectors easily as large as a 15-minute city. They're all monoculture because those people have chosen to live together. What are you going to do with them? One size doesn't fit all, some of the critics say, and I think they're right about that. It's not clear either whether it will. Sustainability is a big part of this. If sustainability is about a simpler lifestyle that isn't so taken up with cars and trucks and trains and transport, what kind of lifestyle is this? Because it looks to me, as I examine proposals, and I haven't done this in detail, I don't regard myself as able to do that or ready to do that, but it looks, at least on the surface of things, that it's really rather like the lockdowns. So you don't need to go to the store. The store will come to you. There will be delivery trucks 24/7. In great numbers, and you can stay home and we will bring the product to you. Okay, well, to some extent that might move us toward a simpler and more sustainable culture, but it isn't obvious how. It's nice if you don't have to go to the store to pick up your new television or whatever it is, your groceries for that matter. But whether you're going to the store or the store is coming to you, it still takes energy, it takes time, it takes people moving around. Moreover, people like to move around. So the question arises, once you've demarcated all these 15-minute cities and you've said to people, look, you need to slow down, you need to relax, you need not to be sitting out in traffic, are you going to tell them that they must stay at home and stay in their neighborhood and relax, and that they may not go out in traffic? Well, we already know from some of the prototypes, such as Oxford, that they do have plans to prevent you from moving as freely as you would like or as regularly as you might wish from one sector to another. Although, again, the details are a bit fuzzy. Can you go out of your 15-minute city to the ring road and to go around the ring road and come into another one that way? Is that okay? If so, how does that cut down your time in traffic? How does it cut down the emissions from your automobile and so forth? These things are not at all clear to me, and I'm not sure they're clear to anyone.
Yeah, I want to jump in and ask this question, because you raised a very good point that we already have within Canada many communities that are, as you said, monocultural. But we also have communities where you've got large groups of immigrants living alongside large groups of third, fourth generation Canadians. And there are going to be cultural clashes between these. And where I'm going with this is post-World War I, when the British basically redrew the map of the Middle East. And this is why, to this day, for example, we're still having problems in Palestine, because completely ignorant of the cultural clashes that were going on there, they drew this map that stuck together cultural groups that historically had hated each other in the same country. So here's where I'm going with this. If they get away with this, if we don't stop them from doing this, and we end up with these 15-minute cities, and we end up with large cultural groups stuck in the same neighborhood, groups that are not going to get along with each other, do you think that it's either their plan to forcibly move some of the people, as you already alluded to, or their plan is simply to sequester everyone in their homes so it becomes a non-issue?